3 years ago. After the events of the Pungsan cult arc, Johan was lost and looking for ways to make money for his mother's cornea surgery. He found himself in the Big Deal gang where he sought refuge for a couple of days. However, later, Johan left to take over Gangbuk and made it his mission to take over the regions and get stronger. Johan stole the shoes of the people he beat, an idea given in passing by Johan Seong. While in Big Deal, this was not enough, as Johan needed to go up the long waiting list, so he didn't just need money, but he needed power.
This is the point where Johan met Gun Park and begged him to advance his mother on the waitlist for the surgery. Gun took him in as a successor and told Johan to unite the 4 major crews, and then he will be able to have the power to go up the waiting list. This would be because he has Charles Choi's influence. But in this video, we're going to take another approach to Johan's journey. We will delve into a what-if scenario of Johan staying in Big Deal, and seeing how this will change Lookism as a whole.
But before we start, I want to introduce you guys to this tiny Lookism YouTuber who's struggling to gain views and make his footing in the Lookism community. I want you to give him some support and please welcome VMAT.
Hey guys, it's VMAT here. Subscribe to my channel.
Anyway guys, let's get into the video! What are you still doing here? Was the intro? Was the one with the sparking music? I don't know if I have the time for that.
See you in the dark and I don't even need my eyes. Your face is like a photo that's imprinted in my mind. Like, what's the use of saving room for the memories of me and you when all you do is look for better things, but...
Now that was rude, Kaiseni, but let's get on to the video. Upon joining Big Deal, Johan would see exactly what type of crew Big Deal really is, and he will begin strengthening himself by training alongside Jake, Sinu, Jerry, and the others. Eventually, Gun and Goo will come to declare Big Deal as one of the 4 major crews, and this situation will play out the same way, with Sinu selling himself to the workers and Jake having the time to figure out a business idea. After this happens, Jake will have a reality check and he'll truly understand how strong Land's outside gangster really is, because he witnessed Goo absolutely embarrassing Sinu like that. Eventually, information will come to him of a crew named Hostile in the Gangdong region, and he will send Jerry and Johan to check it out and take over Hostile and their region. Now we go to Hostile, and shortly after eliminating Backdoor, Eli and Warren would have lost against Jerry and Johan. Hostile would have been crushed. This is why. In the original timeline, Johan and Jerry were both there to take over Hostile, but they weren't working together. They were on their own paths. But in this case, if it's a pure 2v2, Johan and Jerry get my money every time. With this, Gun's radar of Hostile as a candidate for the 4 major crews gets taken out, and Big Deal will eventually overtake both Warren, Eli, Max and Derek alongside with Sally. And we think that Eli and Warren will be able to respect that, as it aligns with their ideologies as well. Sally will finally have a family. As well as this, their trust will slowly go up, and they'll eventually take over the region of Gangdong using Big Deal's name. So they can continue their point organization, and they can still save runaway family children under Big Deal's name.
Now, Eli and Warren joining Big Deal. Eli and Warren's trust in Big Deal will only grow from there, and as time passes, both Eli and Warren's places will definitely be solidified as Big Deal's number 4 and number 5, replacing Jason and Brad's place. With these 2 absolute powerhouses joining Big Deal, both the worth and the strength of the crew will increase tremendously, and I think Gun might personally be biased towards Big Deal than any other crew he created, because think about it. Gun favors Eli because of his tenacity and his wits as well as street smarts, and Warren because of his undying loyalty and prodigious amount of strength. Johan, who's a genius in the making, and Samuel, who's willing to make the hard decisions. Not to mention Jake, who has the legend's blood flowing in him. In Gun's eyes, this is the most perfect crew, and with time, it may even rival the workers. Now, Samuel versus Jake. How will this affect Johan? Once Johan and Jerry return to Big Deal, we enter Big Deal's civil war where Oldface and Samuel were trying to take over Jake. And due to Samuel's kingly ambitions, he and Jake will inevitably get into a fight, causing Samuel to leave and eventually join Eugene's workers. Now the question is, how will this affect Johan's judgment? The question racing through his head right now would be who would be right to join forces with. Samuel, the one who taught him to survive through brutality, Or Jake, the one who taught Johan to live with no regrets. Although the decision will be an incredibly hard one for Johan to make, he will ultimately side with Jake. Not because he favors Jake more as a person, but because it aligns with his goals more.
So what are Johan's new plans with Big Deal? He's now in the number 3 position, and Johan's plans have not changed even after joining Big Deal. His main goal is still to garner enough money and influence to sway whoever's in charge of the waitlist to bump his mother to the top. The way we think he'll do this is by rising through the ranks of Big Deal. However, the requirements for his goals according to Gun is still to unite the 4 major crews. Now Johan could do this by 2 different methods. Method 1 is where Johan shares his problem with Jake, hoping he'll sympathize with him, and then proceed to ask him if he could temporarily become Big Deal's number 1. Knowing Jake, he'll probably agree to let Johan do this. And Johan being the crew head for a couple days, Gun might be able to help him out with this. The second method is a lot more simpler, with Johan writing on Big Deal's name, hoping for Gun's bias and his assistance with Charles Choi to help his mom. So with his goals intact, now we talk about what will happen in Gang Buck. In this timeline, Johan doesn't create his own crew. There will be no God Dog, and in fact, the ruler of the Gang Buck area will stay ruled by Jin Jang and his crew, K-House. There is a possibility of a power struggle if either Johan or Eli gets assigned to take over Gang Buck, but of course, eventually, they'll probably take it out in a couple of hours. Cause you know, Jin Jang has hands, but he doesn't have machine guns. Absorbing Jin Jang into Big Deal would be very beneficial for them as they now have an advisor. Jin Jang, the hog rider looking ass, the afro guy, the mohawk. Jin Jang is an analyzer, and he far surpasses Jace in intelligence, and we'll see his influence in the future.
Samuel leaves to join the workers. At this point in time, Samuel will join the 4th affiliate of the workers as its director. And with this, Jake goes to prison. With Jake being caught and sent to prison because of forming an illegal gambling ring, he appoints Johan to temporarily be Big Deal's crewhead until the war with the workers begins. As this all happens, we get a flashback of Jake sitting Jerry down, telling him that in time, he will eventually be caught, and that's okay. Johan will be the head of Big Deal temporarily, and he orders Jerry to listen to him. Jerry asks how come he's so sure of it, so sure of Johan taking responsibility, and he looks back to Jerry, saying, because it's a decision I won't regret. And this could be a very big character development jump, as now Jake will be gone and Johan now has the choice to step up as Big Deal's proxy leader or let Big Deal lay low. But knowing Johan, he won't just let Jake's efforts be for nothing. He's come so far with this crew and he won't just let it be dissolved in vain. And if Big Deal was to be excommunicated from the 4 crews, it won't be because of lack of effort. So Johan steps up and takes on the mantle as Johan Seong, Big Deal's number 1.
With Johan as the new leader of Big Deal, we go into the 4th affiliate. Knowing Johan, he won't back down to any fight, and he knows he needs to take on the workers. So remember that Big Deal right now has 2 main goals. Number 1 is save Sinu, which is more so Jake's goal, and number 2, it's to unite the 4 major crews, so they would need to take down workers in order to do that. With Jin Jang as their advisor, they would be able to locate the 4th affiliate, because remember, Jin Jang's abilities far surpass Jace Park, and they would eventually be able to devise a plan using those VVIP badges to locate the illegal businesses of the 4th affiliate, similar to what Daniel Park did. But wait a second, where are the VVIP badges coming from? Well, Gun would favor Big Deal, and thus give the VVIP badge to Johan in this case. Gun wants Johan to take down the 4 major crews, similar to what Daniel was directed to in the original timeline. Going through the 4th affiliate, they would encounter Samuel and Manager Kim. And I believe the main force going into the 4th affiliate would be Johan, Eli, and Warren, because the other Big Deal members are far too noticeable. Imagine Jerry, a 7-foot giant, going into the 4th affiliate. Yeah, no way. And also, Jake's still in prison, so this would be under Johan's rash decision to invade the workers right away. Also, this may be the time where you're wondering where Daniel Park and Jay Hai are. Well, they're not a part of the story. They would have no influence on this story at all, as Hostel and God Dog are already taken out by Big Deal at this point. J-High is no longer needed to unite the four major crews, nor would they have any contact with all this gang activity. They would be living in Lookism while we're living in Gangism. So, going on to the fourth affiliate, as fights continue, we have the White Tiger Job Center who steps in to protect the fourth affiliate. Warren would still meet Manager Kim and they would develop a relationship similar to the original timeline. As well as that, with Eli's presence, he would face off against Mr. Carpenter Tom Lee, while Samuel would fight Johan. These are all exciting fights, but we know none of them really end, because Tom Lee and Manager Kim are just too OP, Eli and Warren don't have a chance, but they were eventually called off. As for Johan and Samuel, I would put Samuel over Johan here because even though Johan has been learning from Big Deal and training, he lacks the hardware and real-life combat experience. Remember, originally, Johan was grinding fights in Gang Buck, and that's often how Lookism characters grow stronger. It's through the real fights. So Samuel would end up winning in a tough battle. But this is where Johan, yet again, learns and develops as a character, growing even stronger, being able to copy Heat Mode, and now becoming a beast for the next time he fights. But with Big Deal infiltrating the fourth affiliate, Eugene would have no choice but to call off the White Tiger Job Center. And Tom Lee and Manager Kim would be called off, with Alexander Huang being taken and Samuel leaving to the third affiliate.
And now the happenings of the third affiliate. With the fourth affiliate down, we now enter the third affiliate. This is also the part of the story where Jake comes out of prison. And remember that he's now gun level, so Big Deal is kinda stacked right now. In time to defeat Xiaolong and the third affiliate. With Jake out, Jerry can now take direct instructions as Jake's sword, and I think Jake and Johan could both be crew heads in this case, with Johan acting as the crew head, and Jake being the true head. The Big Deal's roster is now Jake, Jerry, Johan, Eli, Warren, Jason, Brad, Darius, Jin Jiang, and the GOAT lineman. Entering, I believe it would be Jake, Jerry, Johan, and Eli taking lineman's place. Warren and Darius and the others would just be on standby for now. In my opinion, they would absolutely crush Club Vivi. The Big Deal is so much stronger, and even with Samuel's help, the third affiliate realistically stands no chance against Big Deal. Johan would find out about Peng San's drugs from Samuel, because Samuel is still in the chaotic neutral at this point and he would tell Johan. Johan could honestly 1v4 the executives at this point, and Jake would be able to defeat Xiaolong, like in the OG timeline. The finale of this arc would not include UI Daniel, but have Samuel showing Jake the empty cell of Sinu. I also believe that another divergence happens in the story, with Samuel So joining Big Deal as a spy within the workers, and Jake would ask Samuel for help in locating Sinu, and originally Samuel declined, but remember, Samuel ended up betraying the workers in the OG timeline only after seeing that they had the strength to defeat Eugene. I think Samuel would definitely join Big Deal earlier in this timeline, and he would help them save Sinu in the second affiliate on the chance that he can become king eventually. And now, the start of the Summit arc. In the Summit arc, instead of 4 crews attending the Summit meeting hosted by Eugene, only 2 of them would be present, the powerhouse conglomerate of Big Deal, and the one who holds a monopoly of branches throughout all of Korea, Workers. But what the workers lack in strength, they make up for in smarts. Well, not that they lack any. But Big Deal as the same, with Jake spearheading this meeting alongside his most trusted companions, and now a formidable mind by his side, Jin Jiang. The meeting starts and Eugene busts out the idea of Big Deal joining the workers, and Big Deal as a whole, except Jake, gets offended at this idea. He orders his crew to leave immediately and says, "The only way Big Deal is going to the workers is if we crush you under us." And with a menacing look in his eye, he walks away, essentially starting a war with the workers.
Before the war, the second affiliate happens, and the second affiliate would be unable to locate without Samuel's help. Samuel, being a spy for Big Deal, would request to be transferred to the second affiliate, and this is where he would become codenamed Kitsune, and communicate with Big Deal throughout the arc. Here, Jake would be able to locate Sinu, but we still have those pesky executives Kenta, Sato, and Ryuhei. I believe Samuel could take care of Kenta and Sato. As for Ryuhei, he would still end up fighting Sinu like in the original timeline, once Sinu was saved by Jake. After this, they would successfully add Sinu to their roster, and the war begins.
And now, the war arc. Workers versus Big Deal. This is where things come to an end. The final war to decide which crew will absorb which. Will it be Big Deal coming to an end? Or workers meeting their fates? Because this war is high stakes, Eugene would order the first affiliate to join. In reality, whoever is able to hire the White Tiger Job Center would win this fight, but let's say for the simplicity's sake, none of the top tiers would be joining this battle. No Gunn, no James Lee, no Tom Lee, and no Manager Kim. Who wins this fight? Workers or Big Deal? The powerhouses of workers, Mandeok Bang, Yu Song, Basement Hulk, Zhao Lung, Taejin, Ryuhei, Sato Kazuma, and Old Face, along with Kenta. And the powerhouses of Big Deal, Jake, Sinu, Johan, who's weaker than the original since no UI Daniel was ever present, Samuel, Jerry, and Eli, who's weaker than present, and Warren, who's weaker than the original.
So, now that we have the combatants for both sides, now let's talk about the potential fights and how this war would actually go down. So the first 3 fights I have actually happened in the original timeline, so we can predict this pretty easily. We have Jake versus Xiaolong, Jerry versus Mandeok, and Johan versus Yuseong. Now, just like in the original timeline, Xiaolong and Mandeok would both win their fights. And Johan, not being able to copy UI Daniel in this timeline, he would lose pretty bad against Yuseong, because he's a lot weaker in this timeline than the original. It's not looking good for Big Deal, but let's continue. We now have Sinu and Ryuhei, who are pretty close in power to one another. I know a lot of fans can power scale and say who's stronger, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just say they tie. Now we have Samuel versus the headbutt prodigies, Chang Young-ji and Do-Soo Lee. Yeah, I don't know who these guys are either, it's okay, Samuel completely destroys them. Next, we have Eli and Warren versus Sato and Kenta Megami. Now, this Eli and Warren are a lot weaker than the original timeline because they didn't go to the countryside, they didn't go fight the first generation kings, and they don't have mastery. This can be said for the same as Samuel as well, but Samuel obviously wins his fight. With Eli and Warren having no mastery, I still think they win in a pretty high difficulty match against Sato and Kenta, because the second affiliate executives aren't as strong as the crew head level right now. So it would be a tough fight, but Eli and Warren would come out on top. Now we get on to the very exciting fights, where we have the addition of the first affiliate. As of the date of this recording, we don't know exactly how strong the first affiliate executives are, but we can assume them to be pretty strong because it's pretty late in the series now and they're fighting against Allied. So we have the legendary Basement Hulk, who is one-shotting Hudson, who seems to be beating Eli soon, against Darius Hong and Jiho Park. Now listen, Jiho Park and Darius Hong both came out of prison at the same time as Jake. So after coming out of prison, they would have to join Big Deal.
Tremendously.
And
they'd be so
you
strong.
know that. Yeah, like what do you have to say about this, Kai?
I personally think Basement Hulk gets absolutely washed by Darius Hong and Jiho Park simply because they have more fighting experience. But what do you say, Matt? What do you have to say?
I say Basement Hulk, you know, he's uncoordinated. He doesn't know who his allies or his enemies are.
That's very true.
And Darius Hong and Jiho Park have that chemistry, you know? They have that bond. Remember in the beginning of the prison, they had that bonding session in the washroom?
I'd rather not remember, but yeah, I do.
Their bond is similar to Eli and Warren, and with the combo attacks 2v1, I think they would somehow find a way.
They would, that's
Basement
very true. And now let's move on to the next.
The next one, we have Taejin of the first affiliate, the director, versus the analyzer, the absolute goat,
Hog
the
Rider.
brain of Big Deal, Jin Jang.
Let's go Hog Rider! But sadly, Taejin takes this one, sadly.
Yeah, I would say Jin Jang doesn't have the... Jin Jang's biggest strength is his ability to research and analyze his opponent's weak points,
Basically
but he
Batman.
would have no data on Taejin in this point,
No
so
problem.
I think Jin Jang would lose this fight.
Yeah. And lastly,
I mean, even if he had it.
it's the next one. It's the next one.
We have Jason and Brad. Jason and Brad are probably fighting air. Probably wouldn't help much.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
very
where's
true.
Lineman also? Like,
Oh wait, we have to add lineman in there.
in reality, Jason, Brad, and Lineman, they would probably help out whatever they can. but I still think Mandyok would probably one-shot all of them.
That is very
and
true.
at this point, they would like not have a factor. If Mandyok is one-shotting them, then how are they gonna help?
That's very
Like Darius Hong and Jiho Park obviously can beat a Basement Hulk.
Yeah, obviously.
But they probably get one-shot by Basement Hulk as well.
That's very true.
And the final fight, guys. Oldface and the third affiliate executives 5v2 Max and Derek.
This just seems illegal at this point. But anyway,
Remember, Max and Derek. Oh,
we're fucking good. No, this seems illegal. I feel like they'd actually go to prison for this.
yeah. I mean, Max and Derek probably hold against them, right?
I mean, he lost to Jackie Lee, which is also gun level.
Think about it this way. Max and Derek lost against Jackie Lee, who lost against Zach Lee, who lost against Kenta, who lost against Gun. Therefore, they're gun level.
That's very true. That's very true. So in the end, the workers win easily. End of the story, and goodbye.
Bye.